At 100 local time, Ukraine launched a massive drone attack deep into Russia. And this time, the target wasn't a factory or a base. It was a village less than 40 kilometers from Moscow, inside Putin's own backyard. This is the night the Ukraine-Russia war got dangerously close to the Kremlin, and what happened in the hours after tells a story most headlines never got to. On the night of July 13th, Ukraine launched one of the heaviest drone waves of the entire war. Roughly 350 drones tracked over the greater Moscow region alone. Russia claimed to have intercepted 342 drones nationwide, but interception numbers don't tell the whole story. At least 4 people were killed and 7 wounded, most of them in the village of Pionersky in the Istra district, less than 40 kilometers from the Kremlin, where homes caught fire. This wasn't a strike on a base or a factory. It was a residential area, close enough to Moscow that Putin's own government had to publicly account for it. For a war that Russian state media has spent years framing as something happening far away, on someone else's front line, a night like this one is much harder to explain away to a domestic audience watching the fires from their own windows. Here's a detail that rarely gets full context. All 4 of Moscow's major airports, Sheremetyevo, Domodedovo, Vnukovo, and Zhukovsky, briefly imposed flight restrictions that night. What almost nobody explains is how routine this has quietly become. Moscow's airports have now had to halt or restrict flights due to drone threats dozens of times since the war escalated, to the point where Russian aviation authorities have effectively built temporary shutdown procedures into daily operations. A capital city's airspace being treated as a recurring wartime risk, rather than a one-off emergency, says a lot about how this war has changed daily life in Russia, not just at the front. It's worth remembering that Moscow's airports handle tens of millions of passengers a year, feeding flights across Russia and to allied countries. So even a brief restriction ripples out into delayed connections and disrupted schedules nationwide, not just for the people flying out of the capital itself. And this is the detail almost nobody connects to this strike. Istra district isn't some random patch of countryside. It's home to the New Jerusalem monastery, a 17th century complex built by a Russian Orthodox patriarch, specifically to recreate the Holy Land inside Russia. During World War II, this exact area was occupied by Nazi Germany for a matter of weeks, and the monastery was heavily damaged before Soviet forces recaptured it. It took decades of restoration to rebuild. Now, more than 80 years later, a completely different war has reached the same district again. Not through occupation this time, but from the sky. And the Moscow barrage wasn't an isolated event. It was one piece of a wider wave hitting Russia the same night. A separate strike hit a Rosneft oil depot in the Vyazniki settlement of Stavropol region, hundreds of kilometers south. Further south still, a woman was killed in a strike on the Belgorod region, a border area that's absorbed near constant strikes throughout the war. 3 different regions, one night, one coordinated wave, showing this wasn't a single lucky breakthrough near Moscow, but part of a much broader, simultaneous operation across Russian territory. And this barrage didn't happen in isolation from everything else going on. In the same week, Ukraine had already struck the Syzran refinery and would go on to hit the Salavat and Afipsky refineries within days. Put together, this wasn't just a night of anti-personnel strikes near Moscow. It was one thread in an accelerating campaign that's simultaneously targeting Russia's fuel infrastructure, its logistics, and now, directly, its capital region's airspace and residential areas, all within the same 72-hour window. So why does a drone wave over a quiet village near Moscow matter more than the casualty count alone suggests? Because for years, Moscow was treated as the one place in Russia the war wouldn't really touch. Grounded flights, damaged homes, and a monastery that already survived one war are proof that assumption no longer holds. And when the capital itself has to keep adjusting to a threat it can't fully stop, that's a signal that reaches far beyond Pionersky. Like this video and subscribe to the channel for more breakdowns like this one.